"You don't belong here," the salesman sneered as he looked at the two teenage girls, barely acknowledging them. But what happened next? The next day, two Rolls-Royce cars pull up, and out steps their billionaire father. Want to know how it all unfolded? Let's dive into this unforgettable story. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, let's get started. The day was hot, and the sun blazed down as Sarah and Lily pedaled their bikes toward the luxurious car dealership on the corner of the city's wealthiest neighborhood. They were no strangers to rougher neighborhoods, but something about the glimmering, pristine cars before them made them feel both excited and uneasy. Their clothes, worn sneakers, frayed t-shirts, and ripped shorts, seemed out of place in the midst of the polished showroom and sleek machines. The dealership's glass doors opened with a swish as they walked in, their bikes parked hastily, outside. A low hum filled the space, the scent of new leather and polished chrome permeating the air. Rows of glistening cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, lined the showroom floor, each one more expensive than the last. Their eyes, however, were drawn immediately to one vehicle, a midnight blue hypercar that seemed to shimmer under the bright lights. They exchanged a glance. No words were necessary. This was it. They both knew they would never afford such a car, but in that moment it was everything they wanted. They circled the car, touching the sleek surface, marveling at the design. But their moment of wonder was interrupted when a salesman approached. His suit was sharp, his cologne overpowering. He looked them up and down, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "You girls lost?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. He had already decided who they were, just another pair of teenagers who couldn't afford a thing in the showroom. Sarah clenched her fists, but Lily nudged her gently. They didn't need to argue. They were here for the experience, not to prove anything to him. "You don't belong here," the salesman continued, his voice echoing across the showroom. "You might want to try the used car lot down the street." The laughter from other employees and customers made Sarah's face burn with embarrassment. But it wasn't just humiliation. It was anger. The girls quickly walked out, heads down, their bikes waiting outside. The day they had planned to be an adventure had turned into an exercise in self-restraint. They left the dealership in silence, each of them processing the encounter differently, but both determined to never let someone's prejudice define them. As they rode their bikes away from the dealership, the silence between Sarah and Lily grew heavy. They weren't just upset with the salesman, they were disappointed in themselves for allowing someone else's judgment to make them feel small. They knew they had done nothing wrong, yet the encounter had left a mark. Why do people think they can just judge us based on what we wear? Lily finally spoke, breaking the silence. Her voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it. Sarah didn't answer right away. She knew the world was full of people who looked at appearances and made judgments, based on nothing more than that. She had faced it all her life, being the new kid in different schools, moving from place to place. But this time, it felt personal. She had never expected to face this level of condescension in a place like that, where it seemed wealth and privilege should be combined with kindness and understanding. Just as they reached the end of the street, a voice called out from behind them, "Girls, wait!" The voice was warm, yet firm. The girls turned to see a woman walking briskly toward them, her stride confident. She was dressed simply in a navy blue blouse and khakis, her dark hair pulled into a ponytail. There was something about her demeanor that immediately put them at ease. She was Emily Torres, the saleswoman they had spoken to earlier. Emily's smile was genuine, her eyes kind. "I'm so sorry about that," Emily said, glancing over her shoulder at the dealership. "The behavior you experienced earlier is unacceptable. I'd like to show you something." Sarah and Lily exchanged a glance. Part of them didn't want to go back to the dealership, not after how they'd been treated. But there was something about Emily's sincerity that made them hesitate. "Would you like to see the car you were looking at?" Emily offered. Her words were simple, but they carried an unspoken promise of respect. The girls hesitated, but then nodded, deciding to give it one more try. Inside, Emily took her time to show them the car, explaining its features in detail. She spoke to them not as potential customers, but as curious minds. She didn't condescend, didn't rush them, and didn't make them feel out of place. For the first time that day, the girls felt truly seen. Emily encouraged them to sit inside, to explore the car. It was a dream. The interior was a perfect blend of luxury and performance, the dashboard sleek, the leather seats smooth under their fingertips. They didn't care about the price tag. They were fascinated by the craftsmanship. When it was time to leave, Emily handed them a business card and told them to reach out if they ever had more questions. "I hope to see you again," she said, warmly, as they walked out of the dealership. This time, Sarah and Lily left the dealership with their heads held higher. It wasn't the flashy cars or the dealership itself that had changed their outlook. It was Emily's kindness and respect. That evening, as the girls sat on the porch of their small home, the weight of the day seemed to lift. They had come from the sting of humiliation to the quiet joy of being treated as equals by someone who saw them for who they were, not what they wore. But the entire experience had left them questioning the world they lived in. "Do you think Emily would ever let someone treat her like that?" Lily asked quietly, her legs crossed as she leaned back against the porch railing. Sarah thought for a moment. "No, she didn't deserve that. She has more class in her little finger than that salesman has in his entire body." Lily smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the setting sun. "I think it's because she actually sees people. You know, she didn't look at us and think, 'Oh, they don't belong here.' She just treated us like we mattered." Sarah nodded. "Yeah, and that's more valuable than any car in there." The girls sat together in silence, but this time it was a peaceful kind of silence, the kind that comes with understanding. Their encounter with Emily had reminded them that kindness and respect were the real luxury. The next day, they rode their bikes again. They weren't heading back to the dealership, but they had both realized that one interaction, one person seeing them for who they truly were, had made all the difference. It was a small victory, but in the grand scheme of things, it felt monumental. The girls hadn't won the car, but they had won something far more important. They had won the knowledge that no matter where they were, they could hold their heads high, and that was worth more than any price tag. A week had passed since the girls' visit to the dealership, and though life had returned to its usual rhythm, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something inside her had changed. She had always dreamed of a life different from the one she was living, one where luxury wasn't just a dream, but a possibility. The encounter with Emily had ignited a spark she hadn't known was there. "I've been thinking," Sarah began, breaking the silence as she and Lily sat in the park after school. The air was crisp, the autumn leaves rustling gently around them. "What if we could actually make something of ourselves? What if we could one day walk into that dealership and buy a car just like that one?" Lily raised an eyebrow, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her soda can. "Buy a car like that? You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, Sarah." "I don't think that's something people like us just get." Sarah's smile was slow but determined. "I know it sounds crazy, but maybe we could. Maybe we could work for it." Lily scoffed. "Work for it? You mean like working at some fast food joint for years?" "Not necessarily," Sarah said, a glint in her eye. "We could start something, build something. We've got skills, creativity, drive, a willingness to learn. Why not try something out of the ordinary?" Lily thought for a moment, chewing on her lip. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" Sarah nodded. "Yeah. I think it's time we started thinking bigger. No more waiting for opportunities to fall in our lap. We create them." The air around them seemed to hum with potential. Neither of them had ever seriously thought about what it might take to turn a dream into reality, but now something felt different. There was a quiet understanding between them. This was the first step toward something bigger. And so that evening, as Sarah lay in bed, she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with ideas. How could they turn their small-town lives into something worthy of a luxury lifestyle? She didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in a long time, she felt excited about the future. It wasn't just about the cars. It was about the possibilities. The next day, they gathered at Sarah's house after school, armed with notebooks, pens, and an undeniable sense of purpose. Lily had brought some old marketing magazines she'd found at a second-hand store, and Sarah had dug out her phone, ready to research anything and everything that could get them closer to their goal. "I've been thinking," Sarah said as she flipped through a magazine. "We need a way to make money, but we also need to stand out. There are tons of people trying to start businesses out there, but not all of them make it. We need something different, something fresh." Lily glanced up from her phone, where she had been scrolling through local business listings. "What if we offered something that's both useful and appealing, like a service people actually need, but with a twist?" "Like what?" Sarah asked, intrigued. "Okay, hear me out," Lily said, her excitement growing. "What if we started a mobile detailing service? You know, like cleaning and waxing cars, but we make it a premium, high-end service that feels like a luxury experience." Sarah sat back, letting the idea sink in. "I like it. People want their cars to look good, and we could bring that luxury feel to them, but without the expensive dealership price. We could have packages, like a full interior and exterior clean, or maybe even add on some custom touches, like leather, conditioning, to make it stand out." Lily grinned. "Exactly. And we could market it as something that gives people a taste of luxury, even if they can't afford the high-end prices. We create an experience that feels special." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "And we could brand it like a premium, high-end service. It'd be like getting a little piece of that world we saw at the dealership, but delivered right to their doorstep." The more they talked, the more excited they became. They could turn their love for cars into a business, something that felt tangible, that felt real. Sarah and Lily worked late into the night, writing out a plan and breaking down the logistics, how much it would cost for supplies, how they would reach their target market, and most importantly, how they would stand out in a crowded field. By the end of the evening, they had a clear goal. They were going to make this happen. They were going to start their own detailing business. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was a start, a step toward something bigger. The first week was a whirlwind of planning and organizing. They invested in cleaning supplies, high-quality waxes, microfiber cloths, leather conditioners, and set up a simple website to showcase their business. They called it Luxe Shine Mobile Detailing. It had a ring to it, they thought, something that conveyed luxury and professionalism. The hardest part, however, was marketing. Neither Sarah nor Lily had much experience with running a business, but they were determined. They began posting on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok, showing before and after pictures of the cars they worked on. Slowly, the first few customers trickled in. It was a hot Saturday afternoon when they received their first real job. The client was a local businessman named Mr. Collins, who owned a small auto repair shop. His car, a shiny black SUV, had been sitting in the sun for days and was covered in dust and grime. He wanted it cleaned up for an important meeting the next day. "All right, Lily," Sarah said, adjusting the straps of her apron as they pulled into the parking lot. "This is our moment. We need to knock this out of the park." Lily gave a nervous nod, her hands trembling slightly. "I hope we're ready for this." They parked next to the SUV and started unloading their supplies. They worked in tandem, Sarah washing the exterior while Lily focused on the interior. Their movements were coordinated, and despite the nerves, they felt a sense of pride with each stroke of the cloth. Hours later, the car was gleaming. The black paint was now a mirror, reflecting the clear sky above. The leather seats inside looked brand new, and the tires shone with a gloss that made the SUV appear as if it had just rolled out of a showroom. Mr. Collins walked over, inspecting their work. His face remained unreadable as he walked around the car. When he finally stopped, he nodded. "This looks really good," he said, his voice gruff but approving. "You've earned my business." The girls exchanged a look of relief. It wasn't much, but it was enough to validate their hard work. They had done it. They had turned their dream into something real. "Thanks, Mr. Collins," Sarah said, smiling. "We appreciate the opportunity." "Don't mention it," he replied, handing them an envelope. "You've got potential. Keep it up, and you'll go far." As they packed up their equipment, the girls couldn't stop smiling. They had completed their first job, and it was a success. The road ahead was still long, but this was a huge step forward. The following weeks were a blur of work and hustle. The first few clients trickled in, each job more challenging than the last, but with every new task, Sarah and Lily became more skilled and efficient. Their mobile detailing business, Lux Shine, was slowly growing, but they soon realized that the road to success was not without its hurdles. One afternoon, as they sat in the small cafe by the local park, enjoying a well-earned break, Sarah frowned at her phone. A message had just come in from one of their clients. "Bad news?" Lily asked, glancing over her shoulder at Sarah's expression. "Not exactly," Sarah replied, swiping the screen to reveal the message. "It's a complaint. Mrs. Johnson says her car interior still smells like smoke after we cleaned it." Lily winced. "Ugh, that's not good. We cleaned the upholstery with the special spray, right?" Sarah nodded. "Yeah, we did everything by the book. But I guess it's not enough for some people. I mean, the car was in bad shape to begin with." Lily's brow furrowed. "What are we going to do? We can't afford to lose clients." "I know. Let me text her back, and we'll figure it out. We'll make sure she's happy." Despite their growing reputation, the girls were beginning to realize how delicate their business was. A single negative review could have serious consequences. They had poured everything they had into making Lux Shine a success, and they couldn't afford to let things slip now. After several back-and-forth exchanges with Mrs. Johnson, Sarah and Lily offered a complimentary second cleaning, along with a deep conditioning treatment for the upholstery. They hoped that the extra effort would restore their clients' faith. "You think this will work?" Lily asked, worry evident in her voice. "It has to," Sarah replied. "It's about more than just cleaning. It's about the experience. If we can show her we care and go the extra mile, she'll see the value." The following Saturday, they visited Mrs. Johnson's car, spending an extra 2 hours on the cleaning. They were meticulous, paying close attention to the smallest details. By the end of it, the interior was pristine, the smell completely gone, and Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. When they finished, they sent a message to Mrs. Johnson, asking her to check the car and let them know if it met her expectations. Within an hour, they received a reply. "Thank you so much for going above and beyond. The car looks great now. I appreciate your hard work. I'll be sure to recommend you to my friends." It was a win, but a bittersweet one. They realized how easily things could go wrong. The pressure of keeping every customer satisfied was mounting, and they weren't sure how much longer they could keep up this pace. "Can we handle this?" Lily asked, her voice almost a whisper. "It feels like we're always running to catch up." Sarah leaned back against the chair, her mind racing. They had invested so much time, energy, and money into Lux Shine, but it was clear that maintaining a business was harder than they had imagined. The stress of managing their clients' expectations, handling complaints, and keeping everything organized was beginning to wear on them. "We've got to find a way to scale," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the worry creeping in. "Maybe we could hire part-time help or outsource some of the administrative work." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "I think you're right. If we want to grow, we need to focus on the big picture and stop getting bogged down in the details." It was a tough realization. They had started this business with nothing but hope and determination, but now they needed to consider the bigger picture, how to make it sustainable in the long term. 2 months passed since the ordeal with Mrs. Johnson, and Sarah and Lily found themselves at a crossroads. Lux Shine had started to get more recognition in their town, but that recognition came with its own set of problems. The volume of clients had increased, and they were struggling to keep up. They knew they needed to take action, fast. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of cleaning cars under the hot sun, Sarah sat on the couch, her legs sore, staring at her laptop. Lily was across the room scrolling through her phone. "You know," Sarah said, breaking the silence, "I think we need to get more organized. I was reading about how other small businesses handle things, like scheduling and customer management. We need to set up a proper system." Lily looked up. "What kind of system?" "I was thinking we could use a booking software, something to keep track of appointments and payments. And we need a CRM, customer relationship management tool, so we can keep up with all the clients' details." Lily tilted her head, considering the idea. "You think we can afford that? I mean, we barely have the budget for anything extra." Sarah sighed, rubbing her temples. "I know, but if we keep going at this pace, we're going to burn out. We need to invest in tools that will make everything run smoother. We need to automate, delegate, and focus on what really matters, providing a great service." Lily didn't say anything for a moment. Then slowly she nodded. "Okay, let's do it. It'll cost us, but we can't keep up with all this without help." Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew this was the right decision, even if it meant a temporary sacrifice. They had to level up. They had no choice if they wanted to keep growing. With the new systems in place, Lux Shine began to operate more efficiently. They could now manage their bookings, communicate better with clients, and even automate some of their marketing. Business was booming, and they were no longer overwhelmed by the chaos. But despite all the progress, the pressure continued to mount. Sarah found herself working late into the night, editing marketing materials and responding to client inquiries. Lily was often out in the field, handling the cleaning jobs herself while Sarah dealt with the business side of things. One afternoon, as Sarah was going over the accounts, she realized something unsettling. They were growing fast, but they weren't seeing the profits they had expected. The expenses of running a business were higher than they had anticipated, and they were stretching their budget thinner than ever. Lily walked in, a look of exhaustion on her face. "We've got a problem," she said, sitting down beside Sarah. Sarah sighed. "I know. I was just looking at the numbers. We need to find a way to increase our revenue, or we're going to be in trouble." Lily frowned, her mind racing. "Do we raise our prices or do we offer more services?" "We could do both," Sarah said, tapping her fingers on the table. "Maybe we offer a higher-tier service that includes more luxury options, premium waxes, interior detailing, tire treatments, and we could raise our rates for those services." "That sounds like a good idea," Lily agreed. "We can position it as an upscale VIP service." They both fell silent, the weight of the decision heavy on their shoulders. Raising prices was risky. It could alienate some of their current clients. But without increasing their revenue, they wouldn't be able to sustain the business in, the long term. "We'll make sure it's worth it," Sarah said, determination in her voice. "We'll offer more value, not just a higher price. And if we lose some clients, we'll find new ones. We have to take the risk if we want to grow." Lily nodded, a sense of resolve settling in. It was time to step up, time to push beyond their comfort zone. With the new pricing structure and added services in place, Lux Shine began to see a significant increase in business. Their client base expanded, and the luxury detailing packages were in high demand. They were finally starting to reap the rewards of all their hard work, but there was still a long road ahead. Sarah and Lily knew that if they wanted to take Lux Shine to the next level, they would have to keep innovating, keep pushing forward. There were always new challenges to face, new hurdles to overcome. But for the first time in months, they felt confident. They had built something real, something that had the potential to grow far beyond what they had ever imagined. Looking out over the city as the sun set, Sarah turned to Lily. "We've come a long way, but this is just the beginning." Lily smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "Yeah, we've got a lot more to do, but I know we can do it. We've got this." As they both stood there, watching the horizon, they realized that the road ahead was full of possibilities, and they were ready to take the next step into the future. And so, what began as a moment of humiliation turned into an unforgettable lesson in dignity and respect. The two teenage girls, who were once dismissed because of their appearance, left that dealership with their heads held high, and the world learned an important truth. True value isn't measured by what you wear or how you look. Their father's quiet power and kindness showed everyone that real strength doesn't need to be flaunted, and that those who choose to judge others based on appearances will often be the ones left surprised. In the end, it wasn't the cars, the money, or the lavish lifestyle that left the greatest impression. It was the reminder that character and respect are the greatest measures of worth. As for the girls, they walked away not just with keys to a stunning new car, but with a powerful story that would inspire anyone who's ever been underestimated. Remember, appearances can be deceiving. Never let anyone judge your potential before they truly know your story. Thank you for watching. And if you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming and life-changing moments like this. Until next time, keep believing in yourself.